humblemud.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick, casual kind of bonus episode from the Humble Lounge today. Being that it's December, I've been reflecting a lot on this year as a whole, and considering that we're getting close to the holidays, I figured I'd share a wholesome story. Now, this happened in March, so it's not technically a Christmas story, but it's a heartwarming one all the same, and I wanted to make sure I documented it before this year ends. And before I begin, I just want to drop a quick disclaimer that any potential acts I may refer to as doing in this video were entirely fictional and never happened. You'll understand soon. As many of you who have been watching my channel for a long time now know, February was a very hard month for me, and if you don't know why that was, I'll touch on it briefly later on in the video. But I had gotten back to work around the tail end of February after being out for a few weeks, and as we eased into March, my friend and coworker Gio approached me about a project. Before I left, I had been telling him about how I soft-modded my Nintendo Wii in 2023, and how much fun I had been having with it ever since then. I had also soft-modded my original Wii back in the day when I was in high school, but there's so much more that you can do with it now compared to back then. And because of what happened in February, I decided that I was going to leave the city I was working in and was going to move across the state to be closer to my family. And since I was leaving, Gio asked me if I minded maybe modding his Nintendo Wii before I left. I gladly took him up on the offer, and he let me know what retro games that he would like to have. He felt bad for making me do so much work, especially since there was a lot that he was interested in experiencing and playing. So he kept apologizing and asking if I was sure I wanted to do all of this, if I needed money, anything like that. But I told him not to feel bad and that I was actually looking forward to it. By the time I was done, this was probably a 4 to 5 day project altogether. Gio had basically every retro game that he could ever think of, from the NES to the SNES, Game Boy Color, Advance, to the Genesis, Master System, a lot of cool WiiWare games that a lot of people probably don't even remember now, as many Nintendo 64 games as I could get, and I was even able to get some PlayStation games running on the Wii. And also, I knew he had never heard of the TurboGrafx 16 or CD, so I got some of the best games I could think of from that console on there as well. And of course, I backed up all of his Wii and GameCube games so he could run those off of a hard drive. I tested a good handful of things, made sure everything ran well, and happily turned it back over to him. Not only that, but I made this pretty advanced 12-page guide on how to do everything. It was kind of extra, which was a little much, but you know, if you're not experienced with this and you go into all of these menus and things blind, it's kind of hard to get a grasp on what's going on. So I did things like making a little table showing all of the commands you need to know for exiting the games and things like that, how to install any games that he's got on his external hard drive that he currently doesn't have space for on the Wii menu, breakdowns on what each of the homebrew channel menus do and how they work, etc, etc. And of course, being a TurboGrafx PC Engine enthusiast, I also wrote 2 whole pages talking about why that system was cool and was so ahead of its time back then, and I included a list of games that I personally really enjoyed and would recommend that he try first. I printed off this entire guide and put it all in this nice clear binder on nice paper, so it felt very official. And altogether, I can't quite tell you how many hours I spent on this entire project start to finish, but it was a lot of time. Despite that, it was something I really enjoyed doing despite how tedious it could get at times. And once he got his Nintendo Wii and guide back and all of those things, I believe the first video he sent me was him playing Mother 3 on the Nintendo Wii. And man, he was really excited. We probably talked about this at least once a day, every single day before I eventually left the city and left that job. Right before all of this, Gio had just had a son, and so he was telling me how excited he was to be able to have this console that pretty much has all the best retro games on there, and he was also telling me about how he planned to walk his son through the history of games that he grew up on once his son was old enough, of course, and he planned to start him on the NES and gradually move forward in time, and I just thought that was really cool. He also reached out a couple times to let me know whenever they had family gatherings that his brothers and kids came by and they all had a blast, so overall it was just a really positive thing. But one day he asked me why I spent so much time on this project, why I went so unnecessarily hard, why I didn't accept any type of gifts or payments or that kind of thing, and I'll be honest with you, I did more for his Nintendo Wii than I did for my own. I really did go overboard with everything that I gave to him and the amount of detail I put into that guide and all of that. The reason why I went so hard on this was that this was actually supposed to be the gift that I was preparing for my brother Devin. Like I said earlier, February was a hard month. I'm not going to get into the specifics obviously, but my brother passed away in February only 5 days before his birthday. And so before all of this happened, I was obviously getting a gift ready for him. I mean, it was about to be his birthday, so what ended up being the full 12-page guide that I had prepared for Gio was already written about halfway through weeks ago and was originally intended for Devin. There was this local shop in the city that had like 25 Wiis on the shelf, and I was going to go in there, pick out the best one, and set up basically everything that I did for Gio I had already planned to do for him. We grew up on all these older consoles and their games and had so many memories together with the GameCube and the Wii when I was in high school and he was in middle school. And so I thought it would be really cool and unexpected for a 25th birthday present to basically be given your childhood back. Especially since our original Nintendo Wii, which I had wrapped in what I thought was cool at the time, which was a bright red chrome skin, we no longer had. Unfortunately, as you've likely gathered, I didn't get to do this project for Devin, but through Gio, I was able to still kind of carry out that action, and it gave me something to focus on at a time when I was really hurting and needed distractions. And knowing that this would be something that Gio's son would later experience too was just icing on the cake for me. Previously, Gio and I had talked about Wii soft modding a little, but it wasn't until a few weeks after my brother's funeral that the whole project transpired and we really started talking about it, so I like to think that maybe Devin inspired some of that behind the scenes and put the whole thing into motion. I don't know. So a couple weeks later, Gio asked if he could come by my house and I said sure. What I didn't realize is that Gio had also been secretly planning to give a gift to me in return this whole time. He had gotten me this custom mini entertainment center from Barrett Family Designs on Etsy, and the coolest thing about it was everything that was included here. Everything that you see here is related to me and my brother. The little CRT shows Ness and his friends walking through the town of Summers, complete with a little SNES as you can see. And for those of you who don't know, EarthBound is my favorite game of all time, and my brother undoubtedly watched me play this game for hours. And I've also got these little Nintendo Power magazines. So we've got the magazines featuring Super Mario World and Super Metroid, as well as Donkey Kong Country, Mega Man X, Super Mario Kart, and Star Fox. Now, we didn't have all of those games on the Super Nintendo, specifically the last four, Donkey Kong Country, Star Fox, Mario Kart, and Mega Man X, but he was keeping to that Super Nintendo theme while also referencing the Nintendo 64 games that me and my brother did have growing up and loved playing together, which were Donkey Kong, Star Fox, Mario Kart, and Mega Man 64. So there were all of these games that he had asked me about in passing when we were having conversations, and I didn't really think too much of it. I just was talking about the games me and my brother used to play growing up, and he was secretly taking notes, I guess, and memorizing what I said so that he could put it together for this gift. And I thought that was really cool. But I saved what's in my opinion the best part for last, which is this little box with cartridges. In this little box are the 3 Nintendo 64 games that my brother and I played together the most. His 2 favorites being Super Mario 64 and Star Fox 64, as well as Super Smash Bros., which we played so much together. And finally, we have Gears of War for the Xbox 360, which was another really special game for us, and Halo and Time Splitters 2 for the original Xbox. I thought that this was such a thoughtful gift, and to this day, it sits at the top of my shelf next to my Wii U, my PlayStation 5, and my PlayStation TV. And I think it goes really well with these little mini PS1 jewel case replicas that I got from Misfit's toy store on Etsy. And as you can see here, we've got Pac-Man World, Spyro, and of course, The Legend of Dragoon here. And last but absolutely not least, I finish off this diorama with this Jeff figure that my brother bought for me years ago from eBay. This was a really unexpected gift for me and probably the coolest thing that he's ever bought me. It was originally made in Japan as part of the Mother 2 mini figure collection, and it's really hard to come across nowadays. And for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to get into today, Jeff reminds me a lot of my brother, and so over this year this figure has become extra special. And just a little insider secret, a big reason that I use Jeff as my quote-unquote character in some of my videos is so I can feel like my brother's in the videos with me. So yeah, I just wanted to take some time to talk about something that meant a lot to me. Probably the most wholesome, alleged piracy story that you'll ever hear. And I really wanted to document this for myself as well so that years down the line I have something I can reminisce with, recorded the same year that it actually all happened. I want to give a big thank you to Gio, and I hope you continue to enjoy that Nintendo Wii. I'd also like to give a big thanks to my brother, who was a huge supporter of this channel as I was building it out, and also for this Jeff figure he surprised me with, because I don't think I ever quite thanked him enough for that. And to you, the viewer, if you're still here, thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay humble.